Hi, I'm Petra. That's what.
Hey, Petra. Hi.
What does it mean to be a spiritual person in the midst of the craziness of our, just our life these days? Whether it's raising children, going to work, having to deal with the pandemic, or our political situation.
Really practical ways to tap into spirituality. Science of Mind has done that for me, and I'm excited to be doing this work with Oscar and Petra to show you how you can get into your own spiritual ebb and flow and and say what? Live the life that you really want to live.
We're going to put hot topics, current events like meditation, law of attraction, and manifestation, all this stuff that you have questions about, that I have questions about. We're going to spin the wheel, and then wherever it lands is what we're going to talk about that day.
So we'll hope you'll join us on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. for Say What on YouTube Live.
Oh my God. Oh my God. And we're live. Hello, Shakera, my love.
Hey, Oscar.
Hey, so Peach is running a little bit late, but she'll be here very, very soon, y'all. Okay, cool. So, we're gonna just, oh my gosh, I just literally broke this. Hang on, everybody calm down. I just hit the wrong thing and the whole stream collapsed. We're good now, we're good. Hi everybody, welcome to Say What. We're so happy you're here. Hey Shakera. It's been kind of a crazy week. You want to do a quick check-in?
Yeah. I am coming out of Inward Journey.
Wow.
Term two.
With Petra, right?
Yeah, Petra and practitioner Sherry Wood. You know that sister can pray. Okay, she can pray.
Yeah, Sherry's epic.
And I mean, I've been having a good time with that, and it has been a journey in and of itself. And then I've been working with this new diet I was telling you about. And I'm like, new diet, who this? Trying to jump into this new body. Okay. Trying to get summertime fine before the end of springtime. Okay. So,
I love it.
Yeah, all these goals. There's our Petra.
Yay, Petra's here! Petra.
Man, it's been a morning.
I know it. Same here.
Oh, gosh.
It's cricket. We're just doing a quick check-in with everybody. Shakera's talking about her new diet.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about it, girl.
Soup, salad, and just liquids. And I'm like trying to avoid all meat and potatoes and Lord Jesus, help me.
Baby Jesus, help me.
Right? Like somebody. Buddha, anybody.
Anybody.
I'm trying to keep my conviction. Lewis went in there and made tacos last night, and I'm like, really?
Oh,
really?
Oh man,
that's rough.
That is rough.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh my
Well,
gosh.
we support you.
That's right, we support you.
Yeah.
We got your back, girl.
Hold me in all the affirmative prayer. Please.
That's right, you got it.
Absolutely.
Petra, what about you? How was your morning?
Well, we had an unexpected pleasure of our granddaughter. We didn't quite we're supposed to get the schedule for childcare, at least 5 or 10 days before the end of the month. So on the 28th, we got the schedule for March childcare, and it was, can we take her for the next day and a half? It's like, okay. So, and apparently we're having some environmental toxic issues, because when she's here and she sleeps in the crib, she just gets more and more and more stuffed. And so this has been getting worse over the last month or two. And so the last few times we've had her, I'm literally up for 3 hours in the middle of the night because she can't breathe. And so she just, and she just can't breathe. And so that means she can't drink her bottle very well. And she doesn't, her binky, she can't soothe herself with her binky. And so it was a very rough night last night. Wow. And then we had our intuitive doctor come, and he came last week and did some work, and we started her on a few supplements, and he came again this morning because it was just so bad. So we're having our system checked for mold. It feels like some of it is the gas that's being let off of her brand new crib. And, it just reminds me, we live in we live in a life of plastic and chemicals. And it is really challenging. And her immune system is, she's got a baby immune system. She's still having to deal with all that. And we're not designed to deal with the toxicity of the life in which we find ourselves. And so we're having to figure out what do we do? How do we clear everything, clear the air, clear the, I've washed everything I can think to wash. But I mean, when you paint your walls, unless you get a certain kind of paint, there's a gas that it lets off until it's settled, and all the furniture we buy, that happens. And, so here we bought this brand new crib a few months ago when we could no longer put her in the playpen. She was just too big, right? She needed to be in an actual crib. And it's causing a problem. And, that it's challenging. It's challenging when we become. And so what we don't want to do is to create this kind of toxic environment to turn into allergies.
Right.
Right. Because that's what happens. My son had that when he was allergic to literally, I'm not kidding, virtually every food he put in his mouth. It was, 1% of the world's population is allergic to rice cereal, and that included my son. And so at that time, the doctor said, if you force them to eat, all these intolerances will turn into actual allergies, like really, you'll force them into allergies. So you have to follow the guidance of his body. And so, he's barely lactose intolerant today, which is kind of amazing considering everything that we went through. But I don't know how to not have Arya exposed to all this toxicity. And then think about it, you and I are too. Like, hello.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just been a morning. And so then, of course, she's fussy because she's tired, and then she had to have a nap, and she wanted a nap, and I'm trying not to be fussy. Did my spiritual practice. So she's actually, Kieran's taking her back to the parents right now as we speak, and then we get her again on Thursday. And we do, it's actually not a bad schedule this month. We have, it was just unexpected that it was like tomorrow, the next day.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Welcome to my world. And in the meantime, I'm trying to work and, come here, be with you guys.
Yeah.
And it's all spiritual practice, right? I said to Karen and I were doing a personal check-in yesterday, I guess it was. We had a long personal check-in. Spirit, mind, soul, body, emotions. Where are you? We just, and some things are a little better than others for me, but I said, and it's my experience, I will say that in the last few months, this is what praying without ceasing looks like. All right, I am in constant meditation, constant spiritual practice to keep myself plugged in, lifted up, not just, reacting. You have to go to sleep. I'm tired too, which is like so utterly unhelpful.
Yeah.
And she's not doing it on purpose, right? So I have to. Children are such amazing guides to spiritual practice, but so has everything else. The flood at the center, the winter storm, the pandemic. I just feel like I am in constant spiritual practice. And when I'm not, man, does it bite me in the ass.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then it's terrible and I feel bad and I make a mess and I have to clean it up and I have to make amends and I have to, and I have to get myself out of the emotional hole that I've dug by allowing myself to not be in spiritual practice. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. There's my check-in. Thanks for asking.
That is one hell of a check-in. Holy crap. I love it.
My hair was on fire.
I know. I love it. It's perfect. Well, I'm doing.
How about you,
I'm
Oscar?
doing well. I had a really big audition yesterday. And, speaking of spiritual practice and kind of staying in the flow and, it was this big audition and I logged in and it was on Zoom. And then right when we got to my big line, like the really crucial moment in the script, my dogs went berserk and started screaming and running around the house and going nuts. They're usually really good during auditions. They just went nuts. And I just, And I'm the type of person, I think, Petra, you know this about me. I kind of like a little bit of chaos. I don't mind it. I'm really good at using chaos. So I just folded it into the script and made fun of it and stayed in character and had fun with my scene partner on Zoom, and then this morning I booked it. I got the job. So yeah.
Wow.
So this morning found out that I booked it. We were all like, we did it. Yeah. So it was just great. It was just another great reminder of like, you just gotta go with the flow. Because I could have been like, oh shit, sorry guys, I ruined it. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And then been mad at my dogs and why is this my life? You know what I mean? Like, but instead, just go with it. Have fun with it. Play with it. And I got the job.
I love
there you
that.
go.
I love that. Well, and I think that speaks to, I believe that that one of the biggest things one of the biggest killers of our lives is resistance.
Yes.
Right? Resist the dogs, resist Arya crying, resist, and it's like, there's no point in it. Resistance just sets up an energetic feedback loop that just makes it worse and worse. And then you actually don't, I shouldn't say you, then I don't actually show up even like in a way that's going to land me the job.
Yeah.
Right. And so I love that, be in the flow of it, not resigned, but just really not in resistance.
Yeah. I love that. It's not resigned because I incorporate it. I play with it. I take it and I play with it and, and mess with it a little bit. Right. So yeah, you're never resigned to the fact of like, this is my life. Like, it's never from that place. Never from a place of self-pity. It's just from a place of playfulness.
Right.
And just kind
of, and I think people misunderstand what acceptance means. I think for a lot of people, acceptance does mean, well, I'm just going to put up with it. I'm going to accept it. This is what it is. Right. Whereas accepting it is different. I love that. Take it up, play with it, be with it, engage with it, or let, as opposed to, I just have to accept this.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because
this all reminds me of, I'm sorry, this all reminds me of a calm meditation I did today. There was a post I actually posted on Facebook. It says, difficulties are meant to rouse, not discourage. Yes. The human spirit is grow strong by conflict. And that's from William Ellery Channing. And I agree with that. I think, we definitely have the opportunity to develop from conflict. In fact, that was one of my favorite classes in communications, conflict development, because it's the time for you to then assess what you can do, and awareness makes a big deal out of that. So I love what you came in talking about, Petra, about how you are aware of what was going on, and then how you, when you see that you're making this mess, then you use that awareness to then make a different choice. It's awesome.
Yeah, and conflict is such a place of creativity, right? Even the conflict of the winter storm was an opportunity for us to be creative. I mean, literally, I shoveled our walkway with the fireplace tool, right?
We still need to make that picture a meme.
I still saw a picture of that. That picture cracked me up. When Karen posted it, I just lost it. Just Petra on the ground.
Shoveling with a little fireplace shoveler, right? Well, that's what I had, right? But conflict allows for creativity. And it's when we resist the conflict, we resist it, we make it wrong, we make it bad, we behave exactly like we did as children and all conflict means fight because to our child mind, right? It's made the decision, run, avoid it at all costs. And yet Shakera, I love that you talked about that in communication. I mean, it's one of the things that I teach in communication, and I teach around relationships. And in leadership and group process and group dynamics, conflict is a place of creativity. Conflict just means where two things are intersecting, right? That's all that conflict means. It doesn't mean necessarily anger or upset, but that opportunity. And then the other thing too that I remind myself is sometimes I can fall into it, and I watch other people fall into it. Oh, why is this happening again? Why is this happening to me? Why is this false idea, this false belief still playing out? Why are my dogs going crazy? Why, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Why is this happening to me? And, and often that we dig for lessons and we dig for something. And usually the truth is, if we've done any spiritual work at all, we already know what the lessons are. We already know what happened in our childhood. We already know what the false belief is. What it's actually, and Shakera, I think this is what you were pointing to, what it's actually is an opportunity for practice. That's it. Here it is. Spiritual practice. This is an opportunity for practice. Am I going to show up the way I said I wanted to? Am I going to practice a new skill? Am I going to practice a different way of being it? Or am I going to just fall into the old ways, right? The old behaviors. And so rather than, oh, why is this happening to me? It's like, an opportunity to practice. Because, yeah, conflict is going to happen. Stuff's going to happen. And there we are.
I love that. I think one of the things that I'm still working on is when I catch myself falling into the old ways, is then just to not be so harsh with myself. Like, just acknowledge, like, oh, fell back a little bit. That's okay. And just, come from that place instead of be like, oh my God, you idiot. Really? Again, you doing this? Why are you still doing this? I think that's something that I feel I've noticed in a lot of my friends as well. We are really harsh to ourselves. Like, we will never speak to other people the way that we speak to ourselves. It's just like, what the hell, dude? You gotta chill out. Yeah, so that's something that I'm still working on.
Yeah, and I think that's, when we say compassion, we have compassion for others, but we have to also learn to have compassion for ourselves. And I just have been having some really interesting conversations about self-love with people. And, I have to admit truthfully, I'm not a fan of the idea of self-love. I think too many people confuse self-love for self-pampering or self-indulgence and things like that, right? But I think self-love is really having compassion. It's really having compassion and saying, fell in. Okay, how do I pull myself out, rather than beating ourselves up, which really opens the door when we are in relationship or working with someone and we watch them spin out and we watch them, be a little angry, maybe even a little hateful, maybe they withdraw, maybe they self-sabotage, and we can watch it in front of our very eyes. And rather than reacting, right? If I have compassion for myself when I'm like that, right, I can so have compassion for the other person. Oh, yeah, I recognize being that defensive. I recognize that trying to cover my ass. I recognize that, attack so that I don't have to defend, right? I recognize all those behaviors. Yeah. And if I'm compassionate for myself, right, then I can be compassionate to another. I can still say, you can't abuse me, right? It's not an appropriate way to, express your anger or whatever, but I can have compassion for the falling into the old ways or the unhelpful ways, right? That compassion goes both ways. And the other side of that coin is if I can be compassionate for other people, then Oscar, as you said, maybe I can be compassionate and I don't have to have that voice in my head that just beats me up. Really hatefully.
Yeah, exactly.
So Shakera, when you're on this diet here, how are you going to be compassionate with yourself?
When I have that piece of tiramisu.
Yes, queen.
I'm gonna be like, it's all good.
It's all good.
Ooh, it's all good.
And it's all God.
And it's all God. And so's the tiramisu.
Come on, tiramisu.
No, I'm gonna take my time with it. I've been giving myself some support in the mirror, like, hey, girlfriend, I see you. You're looking good today. Just every little bit counts. And so I've been making a lot of different changes, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm loving myself for it. I'm loving myself for making the choice to do something different. Yes. And I think the loving of myself in the process is so much more of benefit and a prize to me right now. Yes. So the process of it is fun for me right now. So, yeah. And I'm so glad I still have your affirmative prayers.
Good. And we would do that for the children in our lives. We would do that for our girlfriends. Why would we not do that for ourselves? Right?
Exactly.
I love that. That's great.
That's awesome. I love it. All right, y'all. It is time.
Yay. It is time for the wheel.
It is time for the wheel. All right, let's see what we're going to talk about today. And
let's see.
1, 2, 3.
Ooh, that was a spin.
Yeah. Physical wellness. That's what? Are you kidding me?
What? Say what?
What the what? Say what? That cannot be more perfect because we're already kind of on that track. Oh my gosh, I love that. Physical wellness. There's so much to unpack there. I don't even know where to
know.
start with that.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
isn't Karen teaching a class on wholeness?
Oh
It is.
yeah,
It just
she
started.
is.
Karen
It
teaching that
just,
class?
she just started it yesterday. You can still get into it. It's the mind-body connection from the both science and spiritual point of view, right? The two have to go together.
Wow.
Well, you know, when I was 18, I went to a doctor, and after many, many, many moons of testing and rounds of this, that, and the other thing, basically they gave me a bottle of pills, and they said, well, I'm sorry about your pain. You're going to be in pain for the rest of your life. Here you go. Start getting used to these. And then eventually, you know, you're going to have your neck fused, and your spine's going to degenerate, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And you'll probably get this and that and the other thing, which I don't even name out loud. And because of my family history and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no. This is not my spiritual truth. No. Now, it took 5 years. It took 5 years of diligent spiritual work, physical work, mental and emotional work. I had to clean up a lot of anger and resentment around my family. I had to really recognize that I don't have to inherit diseases. I had to do a lot of spiritual work about the perfection of the universe. I had to go to the chiropractor diligently 3 times a week for 5 years, and do absolutely everything they said. Don't carry the purse this way. Don't carry more than this much weight, blah, 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 blah. Of course, I chafed under all of it, right? But I did it. And you know, and sometimes it felt like my body was glass, and it would shatter at any moment. Just the wrong thing, it would just shatter. And it was like, no, this is not the spiritual truth of me. And, you know, and I've been on that wellness track now for since then, and all stemming from an injury from falling and breaking my collarbone when I was 18 months old. Apparently that was the big culprit. And, yeah, and I really noticed in the last 10 years, I'm healthier than I've ever been. I'm physically well. I'm stronger than I've ever been. I have no aches and pains. And when I do, I know what to do. I know what to do at every level: spirit, mind, emotion, and body, right? They all go together. And I think that's why, Oscar, it's like, oh, I don't know where to start, right? Because it's all of those things. It's not just one of those things by themselves. Yeah, and I'm really grateful. I don't have any of the inherited things. I don't have any of those issues. I don't have any pins or plates in my back. I didn't have any back surgeries. I didn't need them, because I did really did that, you know, very focused, long-term work. And my experience is that spirituality works the best on long-term chronic things, right? If you break your arm, for God's sakes, go get it set.
Yeah.
You need surgery like right now because your appendix is bursting. You know, there's a place for allopathic medicine, and it's good in a crisis, for God's sakes, right? But the long-term chronic things, or the underlying things, yeah, there's so much there.
That's really fascinating. That oh wow, that's really fascinating. The chronic stuff, you can actually put in work to it. Mm-hmm. That's so interesting. I never thought of it like that, because I immediately thought to like, oh, let's just do the quick fix of like, let's see what drugs we can get to take and get rid of the symptoms, but never actually address the cause,
Right.
the causal issue.
Right.
So what a great way to put it, Petra. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really had to look at all the places in which I, you know, felt like I was carrying the world on my shoulders, my lower back, the ways I felt I had never been, you know, supported as a child and, you know, as a young adult. And I mean, I had to do all that work. I had to talk to the pain. I had to talk to the body. I had to talk to myself. Was I willing to stand up for myself? I mean, there were, to me, illnesses, particularly chronic illnesses, and chronic ailments, they have so much metaphor. It's such an amazing metaphor for what's going on in our consciousness. And I had to unpack all of that. And I had to take responsibility for my life. I had to stop being a victim. I had to own my spine, you know, my no. And I mean, all of that came along. I mean, it was, and you know, in the science of mind, we teach you, yes, you can cure things like that, but to have a true healing, it is that causal reality that ultimately has to be healed, because all of this is out picturing. right? And even with Arya, with the toxicity that she's experiencing right now, that's a race cause. That's a humanity cause. We believe that, that it's okay to have all these toxins. And so we have to raise ourselves out of that. I have to raise her out of that in consciousness as well, that she doesn't know. And we can find ways in which to engage with life differently. And so it's not only our thoughts, it's also the thoughts shared by humanity about how life is or isn't. And that's the deep spiritual work, right?
Wow. Dang, girl.
Yeah.
Dang.
It reminds me of like the chakra system.
The what system?
I think our cameras are moving a little. The chakra system. I think
Oh,
our cameras
chakras.
are moving a little different. Like I'm coming in at a delayed interval.
Oh, are you?
Just a
Yeah,
slightly
I'm
delayed.
coming in at
Yeah,
a
it
delayed
might just be
interval
the
with you guys.
internet. It might just be the internet.
So say more about that, Shakira.
Yeah, but it
Yeah,
reminds
tell
me
more
of, like,
about
the
the
chakra
chakra system. I want to learn more about that.
Yeah, because when we have these emotional blockages, the deep emotional work that happens is that everything's created twice, right? Like on the spiritual realm and then the physical realm. And so then if we're having something going on in our spiritual identity, our sense of ourselves spiritually, or the emotional portions of our experience, they show up in our body as blockages. And then it creates just this inability for things to flow, our life to flow, right? But just even the body system to flow. You might have knots in the gut. And if you're having a hard time getting in touch with yourself and your personal power, you might have, issues with your knees and your back, like you were talking about, Petra, with the spine, when you don't feel like you can stand for yourself and all that emotional weight. So I hear you when you're talking about like all of the work that you had to do. I can only imagine for the chronic, diagnoses that someone attempted to give you. You have to do, I mean, like, just to talk about it is an understatement, right? All of the work you actually have to do to unpack where the blockage is and where you're out of alignment with your spiritual truth.
Yeah,
Right?
and I think you say something really important, Shakira, right? We tend, as metaphysicians, we love to talk about it. Oh, I've had this awareness. Oh, I know this belief. And we love to talk about it. But this falls back into what we were saying earlier. Without application, you can talk about it till you're blue in the face.
Right.
And it's nice theory. It sounds good, feels good, right? But that means in the midst of the moment, you actually have to apply it. What does that mean? You have to practice behaving, thinking and behaving in alignment with what you believe is spiritually true. Right? So every time my back hurt, I remember this. I remember saying to myself, I'm supported by the universe. Whether anybody else supports me or not, I'm supported by the universe. And I carried that all the way in through a very successful ministry, all the way up to realizing that I had a staff. There had been some big significant staff changes, and all of a sudden that non-support was showing up. And I had to do a whole nother probably 4 years of work. And it wasn't showing up physically, it was now showing up in work, in my work experience. I am supported. And that, right, that became, and I had to really own that, not just affirm it, talk about it, but it was hard work, especially when I didn't feel supported. So I think you say something really important. It's never enough just to talk about it. I mean, that's where we start, of course, but then it's the application of it, the practice. And that's it's hard and tiring and frustrating and
Yeah.
Right. And I would wonder, like, what's it like when, in your experience, Petra, like, what's it like when you want things to change and you can only have it change to the degree that you believe in that thing? So we talk about like mental equivalence in class. How does that impact the process of doing that work? I mean, can you say more about that?
Well, I think that's really important too, right? I had to become a person who wasn't victimized by my past. And do you see that's different? For me, that's different than saying I'm not a victim of my past. That's a nice phrase. But I had to become the person inside me who was not victimized by my past, either by inherited diseases or the trauma of my family, right? Or even, quite frankly, the fall that had created the physical impact on my spine and neck. And so I had to become inside of me that. So in the whole work with the staff, then I realized that I was so busy supporting everybody else that I didn't believe I was worthy of support. So that was then a whole nother piece. No, wait, don't we teach what you put out, you get back? Why am I supporting everybody else and not getting support back? Oh, because that's partly how I also protect myself. If I'm supporting you, then you don't have to know that I feel vulnerable. If I'm supporting you, then you don't have to know that I need support. If I'm supporting you, look how strong I am. Look at how, all that stuff, right? And so I had to become a person who allowed themselves to be supported without seeing that as somehow bad or weak. That's the mental equivalent, right? To me, that's the way I express a mental equivalent, is being the person who has or does or is that, which is so much beyond simply affirming I have that thing out there, right? And I think, Shakera, as you said last week, I think it was last week, you said, we don't get what we want, we get who we are. And I have to become that person. That's a lot of work. And all that conversation, me, or, the yelling, or the you're stupid, or the insidious, mine when I was a kid is, well, I'm just going to go to my bed, I'm going to die, and you guys are going to be so sorry. So I would disappear myself, right? I'm very aware of, I've spent my whole life just when I'm, my deepest defense mechanism is I simply disappear myself. And then you're going to be sorry, right? You're going to miss me, and you're going to see how just wonderful I actually am.
Yeah.
Right? But until those things, right? That's the practice. Wait a minute. I can't disappear myself. I have to actually show up. I have to speak for what I want. I have to, whatever it is, I have to say no. I have to say yes. I have to be that person who's fully present, fully engaged. Right. And I think those are the mental equivalents. It's not scary to show up. It's not scary to be visible.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, I'm visible to the universe, because otherwise, why would I be here? The infinite needed me. So I'm obviously visible to the universe, right? Emerson's statement, which has meant so much to me for years, the statement is, the fact that you are here shows that the soul had need of an organ here. Will you not assume the post?
Wow.
Yeah.
Come on, Emerson.
I know, right? Boom, right between the eyes.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? Stop dinking around. You're here for a reason. And the reason is to express the universe as you, period. End of sentence. And if that wasn't necessary, you wouldn't be here. So get with the program.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I just think, the application of it, I can't stop thinking about that, because that's like, it's always that first step, isn't it? That's like the hardest and scariest part. It's always like, yes, being aware is great. Yes, talking about it is great. But it's always that first step in applying it. Even if it's just a little tiny baby step, it's just so freaking scary. Because now you're doing something completely new. You are literally, like we talk about setting a new cause all the time, but you are literally about to do it. Physically, you are going to engage in it and try something new and do something new. So like how, so what you said, practice. For me, it did take practice. Right. And it started small things, like tiny little small things that I would just do differently. But now that I've gotten better about it, now that I know what I'm doing because of CSLDallas, now that I know what I'm doing, I just like when I want a new cause or something, I take bigger steps. I just I just lunge immediately into it. So, but let's talk about that first initial. How do you break through and just do it? Just take that step, because that's the scariest part. It's horrifying.
Well, I think Shakira and I are probably going to have different answers to this. So I'm going to take a stab at my answer. We're going to see. And then you guys can also, how do you do it? For me personally, it is a practice of discipline. It's that simple. I'm either going to do it or I'm not. And it is, the just do it. I mean, there's a reason why there's that slogan for sports. And so I am the queen of talking myself into and out of things. I'm not going to go exercise today. I'm sitting here having my cup of coffee. Oh, I have too much work to do. I can't go exercise today. Oh no, it's looking such a pretty day. I'm gonna sit on the pool. I mean, I can talk even though I've said I'm gonna start exercising, I'm gonna blah, 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 right? Whatever it is, but I can talk myself into and out of it so fast, it's not even funny. And I can talk myself into eating the cheesy French fries at Snuffers with my beloved, when I know for a fact that I'm gonna feel so crappy when I do that. But they're so good, and I'm sitting here and the sun is shining and we're having this moment, so I'm gonna eat the cheesy fries, right? But yeah. I know, right? And so for me, it is a dogged discipline. And I try to do it gently with myself, but I try not to let myself get away with shit because I know better. I know exactly how I'm going to feel. And am I going to own up to my own power, or am I going to stop being a freaking victim of the fact that I really want to eat the cheesy fries? Or I just assume, well, I really had more work to do. So let me just tell you how busy I am and how important I am, which is why I couldn't exercise, because really you have to understand I have all these good reasons and I can tell you what they are and I can go on and on and on, right?
Right.
And about whatever it is. And I can go on and on about my trauma and my psychology and blah, 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 blah. So for me, the way to practice is discipline. So if you want to learn how to play tennis, you cannot play tennis. You can do a certain amount in your mind. Yes, envision it, and you can get better by envisioning it. But ultimately, you have to step out on the court.
Yeah.
And you have to suck until you get better. Right? I mean that. And if you don't go out in the court because you feel bad, like how you're practicing, and you say, "Oh, it's never going to work. I'm never." Well. You're right. It won't, because you're not doing it. You're not doing it. And I think we're too harsh in the way we discipline ourselves. I do think that when I eat the cheesy fries, then I have to go, yeah, okay. This moment is a new moment. I make a new choice. I can make a new discipline, right? It's not beating, not.
Yeah.
So that's for me. Yeah, that's what I would say.
So for me, I think it's a combination of things. I think for me, it's important to start out with the mentality of, right? Like you were talking about the mental equivalent, and sometimes that's hard for me to get to, because if I'm in the middle of like, this shit is crazy, excuse my language, but like, I don't see myself past the circumstance, I have to jump into it with, wouldn't it be nice if? Right. So not just automatically throwing myself into what I want to experience, but wouldn't it be nice if, just to kind of let my mind play with the idea, so wouldn't it be nice if I had a Bowflex summertime fine body by the end of springtime? Yes, it would. And then that emotional excitement about it, then can guide me into doing my next step, which is, as my godfather would say, the key to success is taking the last step as if it's already done, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, I already have the summertime fine body, right? So now I'm going to buy the clothes that I would wear with my summertime fine body. And that kind of gives me the encouragement to keep on going. It makes me excited. I go and try on this, and I'm like envisioning myself and putting it on. Like, who is that? Is that Marianne? No, not Marianne Williamson. It's Mary Morrissey. She talks about putting it on. So I do a lot of that visual work first and throughout my process. And then I continue by encouraging myself as that equivalent, right? And then expanding it over time with the same question. Wouldn't it be nice if I was doing this a little differently? Wouldn't it be nice And I spend time with Louis too. We sit around, and when we are up against the thing, it's like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if you got this job that did such and such and such and such? And, yeah. And then what would we do if we had that job? And what would we do if the situation was different? And what would we do if we would show up differently? And I mean, it's unfolding. Everything just continues to unfold around that same question. And so I guess it's a combination of asking the right questions and then taking the step as if it's already done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems, and what you're doing is really building that mental equivalent, right? You're really living into it, right?
Right.
So these are, in Science of Mind, these are the two things, right? We say on the one hand, you create the mental equivalent, and the other hand, you act as if.
Right.
Right. And I think that what's really important is recognizing that Shakera and I represent, and we're going to come to you, Oscar, what do you do? But you'll see that both of these activities work. And so what we have to do when we're doing these spiritual practices is we have to try lots of different ways on, and then we find the way that fits for our personal makeup and constitution, right? And the thing that really works for us. I mean, I'm Germanic, for God's sake. So of course it's going to be a more disciplined, responsible, do it kind of thing. I mean, that's what I was raised in. I was raised in that atmosphere. Anything less than an A wasn't acceptable. And so, I've certainly learned to deal with all of that, blah, blah, blah. But there's a skill set that I have from that is native to me that I use. But that's not how everybody approaches life, and shouldn't be. Right. So I love the way that you described that, Shakera, right? It's just a different, we're all so uniquely different culturally, personally, the way we're made up. And I really, I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a minute. I really think that you should be very careful with any spiritual teacher that says this is the way to do it, and if you don't do it this way, you're not going to make it. So buy my $1,500 project, because by God, if you don't do it this way, you don't have the attitude, you don't have a prosperity consciousness, you don't love yourself. Bullshit. I mean, really, oh my God, it just pisses me off. Okay. Because we're all so unique, and we have to try different ones on, and we'll find some combination, and then maybe at some point, we'll have grown and evolved, and we'll have gotten some skill sets, and then we don't have to think about those so much, and now we want to try on some new ways. But I think it's really important. I think that's one of the reasons why I love that there's the three of us, because we each take it up just a little differently. They're all valid ways. Right? They're all, and we find our own path through it. So Oscar, what about you? How do you take that first step to move in that direction of something new?
Yeah, in the beginning when I didn't know what I was doing. So, I mean, you've all know the story of how I became an actor. I had a full-time job working for nonprofit arts management, and loved the job, great salary, great benefits, health insurance, all of that stuff, all of the adult stuff. Like, this is what I should be doing with my, savings, all of it. But I've always just, since I was a kid, just wanted to be on stage. I wanted to be an actor specifically. I wanted to be an actor, But because I never saw anybody like me do it, and constantly being told that I didn't have the looks for it, I wasn't talented as an actor, I had no talent, I was a good musician, but you're just not an actor. Being told that constantly as a kid, and then in the back of, but even when I was being told that to my face, this is what's weird, is that in the back of my mind, as a kid, I would say, bullshit. That's not real. What you're saying isn't true. Mm-hmm. I just knew it as a kid. I just knew that, no, that's not true. That is not true. Mm-hmm. And then, so here's what changed. I literally just thought to myself, first of all, I just said to myself, I am an actor. Mm-hmm. And then what I did was I started outward in. Because I was still dealing with all this shit from my childhood, I couldn't feel it. I just didn't feel like an actor. I was like, I'm still doing this job, and I'm doing this, and I have responsibilities, and blah, blah, blah. I just couldn't feel it. Mm-hmm. So I would outwardly start, like, how would an actor dress? Mm-hmm. I would start putting on a blazer to do different stuff. I had to, because I couldn't feel it inside of me. Mm-hmm. I start from the outside, and then eventually eventually I was able to just quit my job and get headshots and resume and start auditioning for stuff and started booking like crazy. But here's when I knew, like, okay, I did it. Was when I walked into the bank to drop off a check, to, you know, deposit a check, and the teller goes, "Are you an actor?" And I was
I
like,
love that.
"I am an actor. How did you know?" And she goes, "Oh, it's just the way you walked in here. You were, yeah, and, you know, just the way you look and the way you walked in." I was like, and I remember getting in my car and going, "Holy shit. Oh my God, I did it. Like, I actually did it." And now that I know what I know, looking back, okay, I see exactly what that process was. I knew exactly what now I know what I was doing. So yeah, I had to start
Beautiful.
outward because I
Yes.
couldn't feel it inside.
Right.
So let's start outward. Let's just get it going.
And I think that sometimes is the mistake when we think I have to have the feeling and I have to have the passion. And yeah, that's like a classic example of outward in.
Yes.
We start acting as if. The only caveat I would say to that is please don't act as if you have $1 million in the bank
Yes,
by
please.
running up your credit cards.
Don't do that.
Okay, credit cards is not $1 million in the bank. So no, no, it's really, it really is about acting as if I am the person who has that. That doesn't mean I necessarily go out and buy 1 million things, but you're kind of on that. Really, that was a classic example of that, of the outside in. We can work from the outside in, and we can work from the inside out, and we can do a combination of the two, right? We can absolutely, and I'm trying to think about it. I think probably over my lifetime, I've used both ways. In some places where it was easier to just go for it. Other places I had to act as if that were true. Other places I really had to work on becoming that on the inside, right? And yeah, I guess that's a part of it too, is we're maybe not just so static that we only have one way.
Yeah.
But if one way doesn't feel like it's really working for us, we might try the other.
Yeah.
I love that. And then people do see us as we see ourselves.
That is
right?
exactly it. Yeah.
And the trick then is, I think, is then to squarely look full on in the face the imposter syndrome. Right, because when we do the act as if, we can really undermine it, and we are undermining ourselves a lot just in general in our own lives by saying that we're a fraud, that we're phony, that we're not really that, and we can't really do, we're not really, and of course the class, what do I want to say? The they've named that in psychology, right? The imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And this is why, again, it seems so important to me, and my experience is why the spiritual aspect becomes so important. Because how can you, as an individualized expression of the love and light that is the life of the world, be an imposter about anything? How is that possible, right? The indwelling spirit, it's not an imposter. It's never an imposter. It's impossible for it to be an imposter, because it is life expressing, right? And so for me, that was a big help when I would notice that I would feel like, well, yeah, you're kind of lying there, aren't you? You're not really as loving as you'd like to be. You're not really as peaceful, or blah, 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 or whatever. But spirit as me is. Spirit as me has shown up this way, right? And whether it's to be something or not to be something, I think we talked about that last week too, not to not be a certain kind of minister, but to be another kind of minister, right? Spirit as me actually knows that it's okay not to be that, but to be this. And that really helped me, because how can spirit as me be an imposter? That makes no sense. Nothing, right? And so I find it difficult to do, well, I don't know if the word is battle, but I find it difficult to battle the demons of my own imposter syndrome from a psychological point of view.
Yeah.
Right? It's always only been the spiritual point of view that has allowed me to really build that mental equivalent of being that person who is whatever it is that I'm building, because I know that's the spiritual truth of me.
That was kind of a bombshell for me, because there is the other side to what my story is. Yes, I became an actor, and yes, you know, I get to do all this crazy stuff. But then I remember I booked something really, the first time I booked something really big. And it was a manifestation. Great. Oh my God, I did it. I'm so cool. And the night before, complete panic attack.
Yeah.
The worst I've ever had in my entire life. I mean, it felt like physically, it meant, I was like, oh, I think this is it. I think I'm going to die right now. I might actually die. That's the other thing, it's the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Is I feel like, oh, I haven't paid enough dues to be here yet. I haven't done enough to be at this level. I don't deserve this moment to be happening to me. And just completely fell apart the night before. So when you said, when you tie it back into the spiritual truth, it's like, oh, freaking duh.
Right.
I'm going to use that next time I hit that wall, like, because that was a big lesson for me. It was like, oh shit. Like, yes, I made it, but there's still all this other bullshit in the back of my brain that I still have to work through. So just like just arriving or manifesting is not the end of the story. There's still work to be done. So when you said that, I was like, oh wow, that's a great reminder of, you know, what I learned in that moment.
Well, and I can tell you, I mean, I can look back over my life and I can think of 3, possibly 4 moments where I had an opportunity, a big opportunity that was the outpicturing of a lot of personal work that I did. And I sabotaged every one of them. Simply sabotaged them. Right? Well, who am I? Oh my God. Or what if I can't? What if everything that's come before this has been a fake? What if I can't keep it up? What if I have to now be even more successful? What if, right? All of that. And I have some regret about that. I mean, I had some pretty amazing opportunities that I just sabotaged right out of my life. And it's through, you know, really working with those that I really got to look at this imposter syndrome that is, you know, I think we all have it. And I think it's so interesting that it seems to be the less we are in survival mode, the more the imposter syndrome raises its head. When you're in survival mode, you don't have any time to think about that. You're really just in survival mode. You're just, you know, you're just making it work. And whatever you need to do, you do. And, you know, so it's a bit of a first world problem. There's no question about it. And goes along with first world depression. And it's, you know, and it's such a, and, you know, we could talk about the reptilian brain and the limbic brain and how it's continuing to look for threats. And I don't know what all it is. But as Carl Jung said, we don't do the ultimate healing until we have the spiritual realization. It's the spiritual realization of who we are. We can begin to really own. No, actually, it is. I am that filled with light. I am that good of an actor. I am that, you know, whatever. I am actually that. And it's not I, the ego I. It's the I that is the I that I am, that I came here to be, that is manifesting itself. And I don't have to have false humility, and I don't have to have hubris. I could just show up as me, fully, you know, warts and all.
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. Oh my gosh, what an amazing conversation. This is so great. Oh, I love it so much. Hey, you guys, so if you want to learn more about what we're all about and what we teach and what we talk about here, you got to check out CSLDallas.org. We hope that you join us throughout the week for all of our offerings. You can find all of them on our website. And then on Sundays, we have our Sunday celebration. You guys, I hope you check us out because we just love doing those and love being community with you every single Sunday. Listen, this spinning wheel, listen, we only got a finite amount of topics. So if you liked what you saw today, give us a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, but also leave a comment on what topics you want to see on this wheel. We need it. Just whatever you want to see on it, you want us to talk about, join in the conversation, comment below. We just love you guys. However you found us, wherever you're from, don't know that we love you and we're so glad you found us. So anyway, join us next week, next Tuesday, 1 p.m. and we'll be right here.
I'll be on time.
Yeah.